Hey guys, tonight we step straight into a rain-soaked mystery, one that feels like it's been waiting just for you. You'll wander into a sleepy little town where puddles have secrets, umbrellas cast suspicious shadows, and here's the weird part, nobody, and I mean nobody, can count to 3. That might sound like a quirky problem until you realize even the clocks are in on it. So yeah, statistically speaking, you may not survive your first trip to the bakery. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop your city and what time it is right now in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You don't remember exactly when it started raining. 1 second, the sky was just cloudy. The next, sheets of cool, misty rain curling down your arms, the kind that smells like wet stone and old pine wood. You're standing on a crooked cobblestone road that clearly hasn't seen a car in years. No one honks, no one rushes by with an umbrella. There's just quiet, and the sound of rain hitting metal drain pipes like it's trying to send Morse code. Ahead of you, a rusty iron archway looms. Painted in fading gold are the words, "Welcome to town." That's it, no name, just town. A little ominous, sure, but also kind of efficient. You step through the arch, your boots making that perfect splish-splash sound that belongs in storybooks. It's oddly satisfying. The town has a fairy tale charm dipped in melancholy. Tiny houses with pointy roofs lean slightly to one side like they're whispering secrets. Window panes flicker with candlelight, because apparently electricity is optional here. A signpost stands near a puddle, pointing in 3 directions: clocktower, cafe, and somewhere else. You instinctively want to laugh. Somewhere else sounds like the kind of place you end up after bad takeout, but the sign is dead serious. As you wander in further, something odd catches your attention. A pair of kids are playing hopscotch on wet bricks. 1, 2, they say in unison, then they just stop. "Why'd you stop?" you ask. The older one looks up at you, puzzled. "That's the whole game," she shrugs. "There is no tree." Tree, you almost correct her, but something about the way her eyes narrow makes you think, maybe you shouldn't. You press on, passing a lamppost that flickers 3 times before going out completely. Coincidence? You think so, for now. Then comes the man with the coat. He's standing right in the middle of the square, holding a black umbrella and wearing a pin that reads, "Night Watch, Level 2. Not Level 3, just 2. He gives you a small nod. "Haven't seen you before." You nod back. "I just got here." He frowns slightly. "Strange. We don't usually get new ones after the 2nd bell." "What happens after the 3rd? He chuckles, a dry, papery laugh. "There is no 3rd bell." Then he taps his umbrella against the ground twice and walks off into the rain like a curtain just fell on that entire conversation. Historical side note. In real medieval towns, night watchmen were responsible for ringing bells to mark hours through the night. These bells were both timekeepers and warnings, especially when something was amiss. But in this town, the bell never rings a 3rd time. It's like time is shy, refusing to admit what happens after 2. You feel a strange pull toward the center of town where a large clock tower stands. It's tall, moss-covered, and lopsided, like someone built it out of gilt and old bricks. The clock face is beautiful, but wrong. It has 12 hours, but no number 3. Instead, there's just a smudge. A cloudy, hand-sized blur, like someone kept trying to erase that one spot again and again. You pause, then glance around. No one else seems concerned. Magical trivia. According to several well-worn grimoires, there's a theory that towns under mild enchantment often suffer number erosion, where specific numerals fade from usage entirely. One particularly infamous case involved a fishing village that forgot how to say 7 and accidentally skipped every 7th meal, leading to what scholars call the snackless curse. That one still hasn't been broken. Back in the square, rain drips steadily from a wooden awning above a shuttered bakery. It smells like cinnamon and damp wood. You press your hand to the door. It's warm. The bell above the door jingles twice as you step in. Only twice. The bakery is empty, save for a chalkboard menu that reads butter tarts, 1 coin, honey loaf, 2 coins. You get the feeling that ordering the 3rd thing might not go over well. You order a tart, then a loaf. Then, against your better judgment, you point at the bottom line and say, "I'll try the 3rd one." The baker freezes mid-motion. "I'm sorry," he says slowly. "We don't serve that." His eyes flick to something behind you. You turn, but no one's there. Just your reflection in the window. And next to it, another and another. 3 of you, each one a little different. One looks half asleep. One looks like they're smiling. You aren't. Wizard debate, alert. Whether magical reflections can gain sentience is still a hot topic in the Enchanters Guild. Some believe reflections are just light and memory. Others argue they're soul fragments with social anxiety. You blink. The third reflection is gone. So is the baker. And outside, the rain's falling harder now, like it knows something you don't. The rain hasn't let up, not even a little. It feels like it's following you now, not just falling from the sky, but clinging to your thoughts, making everything feel heavy, like the moment before a sneeze that never comes. You step out of the bakery and glance up. The clock tower looms again, and its hands have barely moved. Only the second hand twitches back and forth, like it's pacing. Oddly, the minute hand seems stuck between 2 and 4. It's as if the third hour just doesn't exist. Across the square, a sloping path leads you to a narrow alley marked the Gentle Hour. That's definitely the kind of alley where something weird happens, but you're already committed. The cobblestones here are smoother, the air colder, and something about the shadows feels instructional, like they're watching you to see if you'll make the right move. At the end of the alley stands the clock tower itself. Up close, it's even more confusing. The base is built from dark grey stone, chipped and smoothed by rain and time. Moss grows in places that seem too high for moss to climb. A wooden door stands slightly ajar, inviting in the creepiest way. Because, old clock towers totally just leave themselves unlocked for funsies. Inside, it smells like copper and wet rope. You climb the spiral stairs, each creak like a whispered warning in a language you almost understand. As you ascend, paintings line the walls. Some are portraits. All of them have people holding up 2 fingers. All, not one with 3. At the top, you reach the belfry, and there he is, the night watchman, again, or still. He's leaning on the railing, peering out into the stormy sky. "You followed me," he says, not surprised. They always do, after the first bell. You're about to ask what he means when a sound breaks the air. Bong, bong, 2 chimes. That's it. The massive bell, older than the town itself, swings no further. But your gut tells you it wants to. What happens if it chimes 3 times, you ask? He doesn't answer. Instead, he pulls a worn notebook from his coat and hands it to you. On the front, scrawled in neat script, "Clock notes level 2, do not count." You flip it open. The pages are filled with diagrams of the bell, notes on rainfall patterns, and a list titled "Visitors Who Tried to Count." All the names stop at number 2. Literally. The third line is always blank, then the list restarts. It's creepy, like the town's trying to start over every time someone gets too curious. In 14th century Bohemia, there were rumours of a town where time moved sideways every time someone miscounted hours. It's believed their calendar eventually gave up and started labelling days as maybe Friday and probably Monday. A similar distortion seems to be at play here. "I tried once," the watchman murmurs, "to count to 3, lost a whole month. Woke up thinking it was still winter. Everyone was wearing shorts. I knew I'd messed up. Why does the bell only chime twice?" He exhales slowly. "Because 3 opens something." Before you can ask what, a loud creak echoes from below. Someone, or something, is coming up the stairs. "I shouldn't be seen talking to you," he says, suddenly nervous. "Not after the second bell. Hide that notebook." You tuck it into your coat just as a woman appears, pale green cloak, dripping with rain. Her boots are too clean for the weather, her eyes far too dry. "Time check," she says briskly. 2 chimes, the watchman responds. "No anomalies. Clock stable. Guest observing." Her gaze flicks to you, then lingers. "This one's early." He shrugs. "Early ones tend to be hopeful." She leans in close to you. "Have you seen the 3rd tick yet?" You shake your head. "Good," she whispers. "When you do, don't blink. It only passes once." With that, she turns and vanishes down the stairs like a cutscene skipping itself. The watchman returns to staring at the rain. "She used to be a librarian," he says, "before she read the wrong book. Now she works maintenance for time. In early enchantment theory, time custodians were often former knowledge keepers, librarians, scribes, historians, who accidentally fell into time loops while indexing forbidden volumes. One infamous case involved a man who tried to alphabetize all dragons. He disappeared somewhere between Frostfang and Grimblepuff. Before you leave the tower, something compels you to look out at the rooftops. The rain has painted them a deeper shade of slate, and for a brief moment, you see it. A shimmer, a glint of something impossible. A shadow moving where no shadow should be. And just beneath it, the faint sound of a 3rd chime. But only in your head. You turn to the watchman, heart thumping. He hasn't heard it. You're not sure whether that's comforting or terrifying. Downstairs, the town waits, somewhere beyond the cafe, beyond the inn, beyond the parts of the map that pretend to know what's what. You've only just begun to lose track of time. You don't intend to return to the cafe. but your feet betray you. The rain makes every step uncertain, as if the stones beneath you shift ever so slightly the moment you look away. You pass the crooked signpost again. Clocktower, cafe, somewhere else. And this time, somewhere else has a little rain-smeared smirk drawn next to it. You're not sure whether to laugh or slowly back away. Eventually, you arrive at the same warm, flickering light behind the rain-streaked window. 2.5 cafe. The door creaks in the exact same rhythm as before. Once, twice, then silence. You don't expect a third creak. At this point, it would feel illegal. Inside, it's cozy in a way that feels suspicious. Mismatched teacups hang from the ceiling like wind chimes that gave up on being useful. A fireplace crackles in the corner, casting shadows that seem to hum faint lullabies. The cafe's menu still hangs above the counter, but the bottom line, the one with the question marks, has been erased. The barista, a woman in her 40s with ink-stained fingers and the kind of gaze that makes you sit up straighter, greets you with a nod. "Back already?" she asks. "I didn't mean to come back." No one ever does. She slides you a mug of something warm, cinnamon-coloured and probably enchanted. "House cocoa," she explains, "pairs well with unanswered questions." You sip. It's both comforting and deeply unsettling, like drinking your grandmother's blanket if it had feelings and a slight existential aftertaste. "You planning to order a game?" she asks after a beat. "I should warn you, no thirds." "Why?" She leans in. "Because people who order a third drink tend to disappear." You chuckle nervously. Disappear where? That's the part no one remembers. There's an old enchantment theory called triplicary displacement, a magical condition in which repetition of threes triggers dimensional overlays. Basically, if you try to do something a third time under a particular curse, you might not end up doing it here anymore. Scholars once tried to test this by feeding a gremlin 3 cups of tea. The teacups survived. The gremlin did not. You glance over at a corner table, one you didn't notice before. It's set for one person and there's a warm cup sitting untouched. You feel drawn to it like déjà vu's slightly drunk cousin. You walk over. As you near the chair, the barista calls out sharply, "Don't sit there." "Why?" "That seat's reserved for people who've made a third choice." You stop. The cocoa in your hand suddenly tastes colder. A man enters the cafe just then, cloaked in a coat soaked all the way through. He stomps his boots, looks around, and gives you a tight nod like he recognizes you, but from a different chapter. He heads to the counter and orders 1 loaf, 1 tart, then pauses. Everyone watches. He smiles nervously. "And The barista slams her palm on the counter. "Don't!" He doesn't finish. The room exhales again. Whether numbers can be cursed is still debated at theoretical numerology symposia across magical universities. While most wizards agree certain numbers like 13 or 66 carry cultural weight, the curse of 3 is still seen as an anomaly, an active selective pattern blocker. As Professor Lila Yu once put it, it's not that 3 is cursed, it's that here it's missing on purpose. The man retreats to a stool and doesn't touch his tart. The barista sighs and wipes her hands on her apron. Some days I miss having a menu with real items. These days we're mostly emotional support. You look around, no one is laughing, but no one seems sad either, just paused. In one corner there's a bookshelf filled with journals, the kind people write in and never take home. You wander over, flipping through one at random. It reads, Day 1, cocoa's good, rain's worse, can't sleep. Day 2, clock tower chimed, twice, again. Day 3, I tried to leave, but there's no door in the back of the inn. Day 3, again. I ordered the third thing. I think I'm someone else now. You look up, the barista's watching you. I was here before, you whisper. She nods. Most of you were. You take another sip of cocoa. It tastes like the first time you ever gave up on getting answers and just let the story happen. A soft chime rings out from nowhere. 1, 2, and then nothing. The lights flicker once, twice. You hold your breath. They stay on. As you leave the cafe, the third cup on the reserved table is gone. No one touched it. Or maybe someone did, and just doesn't exist in the same frame as you anymore. The rain continues, but now it sounds less like weather, and more like a warning being whispered over and over again. You follow the rain-slicked path eastward where the cobblestones widen into a little plaza. A faded wooden sign at the entrance reads, "The Playground of Always Two," which is not exactly the kind of name that makes you want to run and play, but sure, let's see where this goes. The playground is oddly pristine. No kids, no footprints, no discarded juice boxes or rogue mittens. Just stillness, like it's been carefully maintained by something with very clean intentions and very questionable motives. Swings sway on their own, 2 of them of course, and a carousel stands in the middle, gently rotating even though no one's pushing it. You step closer, and that's when a speaker hidden somewhere crackles to life, and a bright, tinny voice cheerily announces, "Welcome, please enjoy up to 2 rounds on the Carousel of Joy. Counting to 3 is not recommended. Management is not responsible for any alterations. That's normal." You take a seat on one of the golden horses. It creaks as you settle in. Another voice, lower, almost like it's part of the wind, murmurs, "Hold on tight, and remember, don't look behind you on the 2nd round." Great, that's exactly the kind of advice that guarantees you'll look behind you. The ride begins. Slowly at first, then smoother. The town blurs a little, the carousel pulling your mind into soft spirals. You feel calm, then curious, then a little unmoored. The horse you're riding on whinnies quietly, probably unnecessary, but very on brand. You try to keep track of time, but it slips like soap between thoughts. 1 rotation, the wind picks up slightly. The music warps. 2 rotations. You glance over your shoulder. There's someone behind you. You don't recognize them, but they're wearing your jacket. They tilt their head slowly, mirroring you, then blink once, twice, and the ride stops. Abruptly, you're the only one on it. In Northern European tales, carousel rides were considered miniature soul circuits, where a child's shadow was briefly separated during motion to cleanse future regrets. Naturally, only 2 rounds were ever allowed. On the 3rd, you risked shadow duplication. You know, the usual. You step off, heart racing a little faster than your feet can keep up with. Behind the ride, you spot a small red booth with a sign that reads, "Prize Redemption for those who didn't try a 3rd lap." Inside, an old woman sits knitting what appears to be a scarf made of fog. She doesn't look up, just says, "You saw it, didn't you?" You hesitate. Saw what? The 3rd you. It always shows up on the 2nd loop. You clear your throat. What happens if I ever do go around a 3rd time? She stops knitting, slowly looks up. Then it's not you who walks off the ride. It is widely accepted in some magical systems that repetition can thin the membrane between versioned selves. In casual terms, do something enough times and you might accidentally step into the version of you who was about to do it differently. The woman offers you a prize anyway, a small glass token shaped like the number 2½. "Keep it," she says. "It opens nothing, but it confuses locks." You take it, still not sure if it's a reward or a warning. As you leave the playground, a group of children run past you, giggling, holding hands. They chant, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Then they freeze mid-run. A boy turns to you, face pale. "Did I say it? Did I say the next number?" You shake your head. "You stopped." He sighs in relief. "Good. Mama says if I ever say it out loud, the sky might blink." Then he runs off, carefree again. It is believed in the town of Naldoria that speaking 3 at a certain pitch causes atmospheric flickering, a minor glitch in Enchanted cloud systems that results in localized rain hiccups. No one's tested it in decades, mostly because umbrellas are expensive there. You tuck the glass token into your pocket, its edges unusually warm. You walk away from the carousel, trying not to feel like something is walking away from you in the opposite direction. Somewhere in the sky, thunder rumbles twice, then nothing, again. It begins with an umbrella, not a magical one, not glowing or floating or cackling spells into the rain, just a normal navy blue umbrella lying by the side of a bench, like someone stepped away for a second and forgot it. You pick it up because it's raining harder now, and honestly, your hair is starting to feel like a wet poem that rhymes with regret. As you flick it open, there's a satisfying thump, and the world around you dulls under the canopy. The air feels muffled, cozy, but then you catch a glint in the puddle below your feet, and you freeze. There are 3 shadows. One is yours, that's fine. One is shorter, barely reaching your waist with a wide-brimmed hat. Cute, a little creepy. The third one, tall, still, and it's holding a second umbrella, though no such umbrella exists above you. You spin around, no one's there. You look back down. All 3 shadows are still there. It's said that enchanted rain doesn't fall, it searches. Some believe droplets carry memory fragments, and standing under the right rain with the right umbrella can bring back forgotten versions of you. Others claim it's just very enthusiastic weather. You lower the umbrella, 2 shadows, that's better. You raise it again, 3. All right then, you decide to test it. You take a few slow steps forward. The shadows follow, all 3 of them. You duck into an alleyway where the rain is weaker and pass an old stone fountain filled with coins, each of them stamped with a different numeral. You reach in and fish one out, a copper piece marked free. Your stomach drops a little. You pocket the coin without thinking. You've already got a glass 2.5 token. Might as well start a cursed collection. Turning a corner, you spot a sign etched into the brick of a building. The Reflection Bureau, branch 0.5. A tiny bell tinkles as you enter. The room is dim, lit by oil lamps and full of mirrors, all slightly off-kilter. One mirror reflects your face twice. Another only shows you when you blink. A third doesn't reflect you at all, but shows the cafe from earlier, empty and flickering in soft candlelight. A short man in a damp sweater appears from behind a curtain. He adjusts his glasses, peers at you, then smiles. "Ah," he says, "we've been expecting someone like you." Someone like me? Yes, one with surplus shadows. You try to play it cool. That normal? No, he says cheerfully, but neither is rain that remembers. He gestures for you to follow him to a full-length mirror, completely fogged over. This one's registered to your aura, he explains. You've triggered a temporal bleed. He wipes the mirror clean, and for a split second your reflection looks scared. Then it smiles, then it mouths the word 3. You jerk back. The image snaps to match your current expression, confused, slightly damp, and wishing you'd just stayed home with a novel and some chamomile tea. "See," the man says, tapping the mirror, "reflections always tell the truth, even when you haven't accepted it yet." You swallow. "What happens if I say it? If I say..." He claps his hands over your mouth. "No spoilers," he whispers. Words have echoes. There's a paradox in magical philosophy called tripling instability, the idea that saying a forbidden number with intent can fracture not time, but self-perception. A classic test involved a mirror, a stopwatch, and a very talkative apprentice. He now identifies as a bookshelf, and is doing quite well actually. The man releases you gently. If your reflection starts to act without you, come back here. We have cloths. You thank him, though you're not entirely sure why, and step back outside. The rain has lightened, but everything still glistens like a wet memory. You open the umbrella again. 3 shadows, still there. One of them turns its head this time, only in the puddle, not in the world. You close the umbrella slowly and whisper, "Not yet." Somewhere behind you, a third set of footsteps fade away into the distance, even though no one was walking. The library isn't on any map, naturally. You only find it because a cat leads you there. It's orange with a single white paw and a face like it's seen too much of this town's nonsense. It appears beside you when you turn left at the alley with the books and broomsticks mural, flicks its tail, and pads ahead like you should have been following it all along. You do, because at this point, cats probably rank higher than local authorities in reliability. The library is tucked between two buildings that absolutely weren't touching a minute ago. It's narrow, tall, and seems to be built out of puzzle pieces and old whispers. Above the door, the sign reads, "Public Library, Conditional Access, Mind the Steps." The cat hops up the first two stairs, meows, waits. You follow. First step, stone. Second step, wood. Third step, doesn't exist. No, seriously, you lift your foot for the third and there's nothing. Just rain-slick air. But as your foot hovers uncertainly, the cat meows again and walks across as if a step is there. You hold your breath, close your eyes and... trust it, your foot lands, something solid, but only while you're not looking. Some magically concealed structures operate on perceptual permission. If you acknowledge something shouldn't exist, it stops existing. If you believe it must, your mind briefly builds it for you. Unsurprisingly, this has made wizard real estate lawyers a nightmare. Inside the library, it's quieter than quiet, the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Shelves spiral up into darkness, ladders hover just slightly off the ground, and the books breathe, not metaphorically. They actually exhale tiny clouds of dust every few seconds. Some sneeze. A chalkboard near the entrance reads, "Welcome to the library. Please do not count past 2 aloud. Please do not shelve cursed items without proper labeling. No whispering unless your voice is licensed." You blink at that last rule and move on. The cat vanishes somewhere into the stacks, naturally. You wander past sections labelled "Histories we no longer acknowledge," "Practical alchemy for the forgetful rain," "Memory," and other liquids maps of places that might move. And then, tucked between poetry with teeth and clockwork theology, you see it. A crooked, black-spined book jammed awkwardly between two tomes. Its title shimmers faintly, "The Rule of Not Three." You reach out, and the shelf shifts. Not dramatically, just slightly. Enough to whisper, "Are you sure?" You grab it anyway. The book is warm. When you open it, words scrawl themselves across the page as if remembering how to be written. Diagrams emerge, strange symbols, sequences of rain patterns, lunar alignments, and steps. Always just 2. There's a section labelled Interference Events. You read, "Case File 7B, subject attempted verbalization of prohibited digit, resulted in 11-minute loss of temporal anchoring. Subject perceived self walking out of current body, waved, and re-entered incorrectly. Spoke backward for remainder of week. Neat." You turn the page. It's blank, then another, also blank, and then in the corner of page 3, of course, in red ink. You've been here before. You just forgot to leave. Your pulse quickens. You look up. There's a mirror at the end of the aisle that definitely wasn't there before. It reflects the hallway perfectly, except you're not in it. You close the book with a snap. The lights dim, just a little, like the library is holding its breath. A librarian in a long blue robe drifts by. No feet, just glides. You weren't aware libraries could have phantoms on staff, but here we are. They don't look at you, just whisper. Third floor stair is active, temporarily. You glance at the main staircase. There's only 2 levels. Or, no, there's a shimmer above the second, a flicker, like an invisible level is testing your resolve. The existence of intermittent architecture is hotly debated in magical academia. Some say stairs can manifest temporarily based on emotional readiness. Others argue that it's just badly warded buildings and excessive optimism. You follow the shimmer. As you climb, the world feels less real with each step. Books hum softly. Raindrops patter against the inside of your thoughts. You reach the top and find a narrow corridor. No books, just a single chair and a window overlooking the town. And on the windowsill, your reflection. It smiles and holds up a finger, then a second, then pauses. You don't breathe. It tilts its head. A third finger starts to rise. You blink. It's gone. And when you look again, so is the chair. The third floor never happened. You're standing at the library entrance again, the book gone from your hands. Only the cat remains, sitting by the door, looking smug. You check your pocket. The copper coin marked 3 is gone. In its place, a torn scrap of paper that simply reads, "You passed the third test by forgetting it happened." You think you're getting the hang of it now. The rain, the missing numbers, the fact that reality seems to be sponsored by someone with a very specific vendetta against the number 3. But deep down, you know that's a lie. Because every time you almost get comfortable, the town reminds you, this place has rules, and they were not made for you. It starts with a story. You find yourself outside a small building shaped like an open book. Literally. The roof curls up at the edges like hardcovers left in the sun too long, and the chimney puffs out what smells suspiciously like old parchment and nutmeg. The sign out front reads, Town Tales, Oral History Archive, versions 1 and 2 only. Inside, an elderly man sits in a velvet armchair that looks like it was upholstered in bedtime. He smiles the moment you step in. "You're here for a tale," he says, like it's not a question. Most people are, whether they admit it or not. "I'm just looking around." Looking around is how the best stories start. You sit across from him in a chair that creaks with familiarity, like it's known you before. Maybe it has. "I'll tell you a story," he begins, voice low and warm, "about what happens when someone tries to say the unspoken number. 3, you ask? He flinches. You swear the room dims. Somewhere, a kettle screeches in protest. "Don't say it," he mutters. It stirs the ink. In the realm of narrative magic, ink stirring is the theory that certain words or numbers can trigger self-aware stories to react defensively, rewriting themselves to prevent interference. It's why, in some regions, entire languages were invented just to tell bedtime stories safely. He continues, "There once was a town where people could count 1, 2, and yes, even the number after that. They lived simply. They built their lives around trios. 3 meals a day, 3 bells at dawn, 3 wishes on every birthday. Then the mist came, and with it, the rule." He leans forward. One day, a child, curious and bright, counted to the forbidden digit, and for a moment everything stopped. Time, memory, even the rain. They say the child vanished, but the echo of their voice didn't. You shift uncomfortably. The echo? Yes, it bounced between clocks and spoons and hollow places in conversations. That's how the town learned. No more counting to that number, not aloud, not in thought, not even in dreams. You pause. "But dreams aren't real." "Exactly," he whispers. "And this town isn't a dream either, which is what makes it so dangerous." There is a long-standing belief that certain places act as echo containers, geographical anomalies that trap linguistic events. The lost song of Eldamir, the whisper that broke the warden's mind, and the number not to be heard are all suspected to exist simultaneously in what scholars call stacked narrative pockets. You stare at the fireplace, where flames curl like they're trying to form letters. "People still try," the old man says, watching you. "They come here, they test the edges, they push. What happens if they succeed?" He chuckles, dry, papery. "Then we make a new story. one without them in it. You stand to leave, feeling the weight of your soaked coat again. The room feels colder now. He calls after you. Careful in the square tonight. They say the mist returns every 7th rain. This is the 6th. As you step out, the rain feels heavier, not harder, just more personal, like it knows your name now. You pass a mural on the wall, a painted story of 3 towers, one of which has been scrubbed out completely. You instinctively try to count the remaining ones. 1, 2, nope. You blink and there's only 1 now. That's fine. You keep walking. Halfway down the street, you pass a postbox labelled Theories, Dreams and Regrets. It's overflowing. A few letters tumble out as you walk by. You stoop to pick one up. It reads, "Dear whoever, I tried it. I said it. I even spelled it in chalk." The crows began to applaud. My own reflection winked. I'm not sure I'm me anymore. Love, a formerly curious resident. You fold the letter gently and slide it back inside. Whether uttering the forbidden number causes identity drift or simply reveals pre-existing fragments of the self is still under debate. Some enchanters argue it's less a curse and more an accelerated introduction to personal chaos. You turn a corner and spot something unusual. A blackboard on a storefront with a tally chart. People who tried saying it. Still around. 18 to 17. Then a pause. The chalk, on its own, begins to add another mark. 19. 17. You take a step back. That last line. It didn't mention what happened to number 18. The inn is waiting for you before you even know you're heading there. You spot it at the end of a misty cobbled lane, its windows glowing warm like eyes that forgot how to blink. The sign hanging from a twisted iron arm reads, "Inn at 2.5 doors." Yeah, that sounds promising. You walk up the creaky steps and see what they mean. There are exactly 2 doors, one standard-sized, one slightly smaller and painted green. The half door is wedged between them, literally half a door, split vertically down the middle, like someone gave up halfway through a woodworking spell. The bell over the middle door chimes when you open it, once, then again. No third chime, obviously. Inside, the lobby is dustier than expected, but still cozy, like someone tried to cast a warm welcome enchantment but forgot to specify units. Mismatched furniture, one sleepy dog-shaped rug, and a check-in desk staffed by a man who looks vaguely surprised to exist. He glances up from a crossword and nods. "You'll be wanting room 2.5. You raise an eyebrow. "Not room 3. He flinches. "Don't joke about that." Then he hands you a key shaped like a semicolon and waves you down the hall. Certain transitional spaces, like inns, train stations or pocket dimensions, are notorious for refusing linear numbering. Scholars believe this is due to the inherent liminality of such places, which tend to reject stable sequences. If a place doesn't know what it is, it sure isn't going to count right. The hallway is lined with doors labelled 1, 1.5, 2, and, yes, 2.5 you. You insert the semicolon key and turn. Room 2.5 is stranger on the inside than the hall suggests. It's shaped like a triangle with curved walls. There's a bed, a chair, a small window that looks out onto the side of another building you're pretty sure doesn't exist. The wallpaper is covered in little repeating patterns of umbrellas, all missing their third rib. A note lies on the pillow. "Welcome, guest. The room is stable, mostly. Please do not sleep in groups of 3. Please do not hum waltzes. Avoid dreams involving doors you haven't opened yet." Management. You sit on the bed. It sighs, not like creaking, like it literally exhales under you. You're not sure whether to apologize or ask how its day's been. You get up and explore. The bathroom has 2 taps, both labelled C. One is cold, the other is confused. The wardrobe opens to a blank wall. and behind a framed painting of the town's clock tower is a small brass dial labelled Adjust Temporal Drift, 2 settings only. You turn it. Once, the lights flicker. Twice, the air bends slightly, like gravity had a hiccup. Then you hear something behind you, something subtle, breathing. You spin around. There's no one there. You check the mirror above the sink. 2 reflections. You blink. Now 3, but only for a second. In rooms with unstable spatial temporal folds, mirror anomalies are considered early warning signs of narrative bleed, a condition where your story momentarily overlaps with the version of you that made a different choice. Symptoms include déjà vu, shadow duplication, and occasional phantom conversations with future you. You decide sleep is probably a terrible idea, which of course makes it impossible to avoid. You lie back down, eyes fluttering. You dream of rain, of 2 doors, and a third one that knocks from the inside. In the dream, you open it. On the other side is you, holding the copper coin marked 3. You smile. You, the you in the dream, say, "I remembered, so now you don't have to." Then the door shuts. You wake with a start. You're still in room 2.5, but something's missing. Your shoes are wet. You didn't wear them to bed. There's a note stuck to the wall in someone else's handwriting. Good instincts. Most don't come back from the dream door. Your third self. You wake feeling like someone borrowed your thoughts and didn't return them quite right. The room is still. The air smells faintly of chamomile and the kind of anxiety people usually bottle as perfume. Light filters through the warped window, casting odd, angular shadows on the floor. Only 2 of them. That's fine. You'll take the small wins. You lace up your damp shoes and notice something slid under the door while you slept. A folded card. On the front, your ride has been scheduled. Inside, in precise ink, your carriage departs at not quite midnight. Only 2 seats available. Third seat has been delayed. Please wait at the corner of Elsewhere Street and Probability Lane. Honestly, this town's commitment to ambiguity is impressive. In magical cities with unstable boundaries, carriages are often summoned by intent rather than schedule. Rides may arrive on memory, emotional resonance, or, very commonly, rain patterns. They're typically limited to pairs or paradoxes, never trios. No one really talks about why. You leave the inn. Elsewhere Street is just around the bend from Where Am I Avenue, and Probability Lane runs parallel to both. Fitting. You find the corner easily, mostly because it doesn't exist until you believe it does. Then, poof, it's there. You wait. At first, there's nothing but rain and that soft, whispery silence that feels paused. Then you hear it. The clop, clop, clop of hooves on cobblestone. A carriage, black as spilled ink, rounds the corner. Lanterns glow with a gentle bluish light. The driver tips his hat and, without a word, gestures for you to climb aboard. You do. The seat is too plush, too warm, like it knew you were coming. You expect the door to close. It doesn't. Instead, a second figure enters. It's the old woman from the clock tower, the one in the red boots, the one who said she came from the 4th world. She sits beside you like this is completely normal. "Evening," she says casually. "Nice night for slipping between certainties." You open your mouth, close it. "Where are we going?" "Depends on what you're ready to remember." The driver flicks the reins. The carriage moves. The street outside blurs, not with speed, but with memory. Familiar storefronts flicker past, some you definitely haven't seen yet, others you may have forgotten. A bakery, but upside down. A bookstore that briefly becomes a fish. A lamppost that bows as you pass. Then the sky changes, not the colour, still overcast and dramatic, but the texture. It looks written, like someone painted the clouds with sentence fragments. You lean forward and tap on the inside window. It ripples. The woman beside you nods. Most people notice it around the time the third carriage appears. You freeze. Third? She gives you a long look. There's always a third, but it never arrives. Not here. It loops. Loop. That word sits too comfortably in your chest. She reaches into her coat and pulls out a timepiece. Not a watch, not a clock, more like a compass that ticks. Its hands spin, pause, reverse. It makes your brain feel like it's blinking out of order. People say if you board the third carriage, you don't get to choose who you are when you arrive. And we're in the second one? For now. The carriage slows. You look out. The road is gone. In its place, fog. Endless fog. And something just ahead. A faint glow. A platform? The carriage stops completely. This is where I get off, she says. You glance out. There's no platform, just fog and a single sign floating in the mist. Maybe. She steps down and vanishes into the grey. You look at the driver. He says flatly, "You can wait for the third, or stay on this one, but you can't get both." In some enchanted towns, choices are not linear, they're conditional. As in, if you try to choose everything, the town chooses you. That's when you get rewritten, sometimes gently, sometimes aggressively. You think of the book you held, the shadow that turned its head, the second chime. You stay on the carriage. It lurches forward again, but something's different. The world outside isn't blurred, it's reversed. The buildings pass in the opposite direction. Time feels like it's walking backward in high heels. And then, the carriage stops a second time. You look out. You're back at the corner of elsewhere and probability, exactly where you started, except the carriage door opens and a man in your coat steps in. You're already inside. He looks at you. You look at him. Neither of you blink. Then, quietly, he says, "Did you wait for the third?" You whisper, "No." "Good," he says, "because I did." It happens the night you count to 3. You don't mean to. You're careful, hyper-aware. You've walked through rain that hums secrets and stared down mirrors that hesitate before they mimic you. You've slept in a half-numbered room and rode a memory-powered carriage. You know better. But it slips out. You're sitting alone beneath a crooked lamppost, flipping that strange copper coin you somehow have again. Marked 3, even though you remember very clearly losing it back in the library. It makes no sound when it lands in your palm. You whisper, 1, 2, and the third word escapes your mouth before you can stop it. 3. You don't feel the earth crack open. You don't hear lightning strike. What you do notice is the pause. A long, aching stillness. The rain stops mid-air, not ends, stops. Drops hang, frozen, suspended like beads on invisible strings. The wind folds in on itself like it forgot the next line of its song. Your breath fogs, then doesn't unfog. It just hangs there, in front of your face, like it's asking if it still belongs to you. And then everything resumes, but not quite as it was. The lamppost bends a little more. The shadow at your feet splits. The copper coin is gone. You stand. Your knees feel wrong, like they're bending in too many directions. But you walk anyway, because what else are you going to do? Sit and wait for a fourth? You head toward the center of town. It's quieter now. Everyone's indoors. Windows are shuttered. Signs that were once charmingly crooked now read backwards. Emosua ilakirips. Seruteo si on Sertsakni. A fountain in the square overflows, not with water, but with folded pieces of paper, all with the same phrase scrawled over and over. You shouldn't have said it. In forbidden speech theory, event verbs like speak, remember, or enter carry heavy metaphysical weight. Saying certain combinations aloud in magically bound places can activate latent scripts, subconscious magical programming baked into the architecture of reality itself. You keep walking. The sky above is fractured, not broken exactly, just mirrored, like someone tiled the atmosphere with reflections of other skies. You swear you see one where it's still morning, one where it's snowing, one where 3 moons hang like curious bystanders. You duck into an alley and find yourself in the cafe again, except this time it's empty. No flickering candles, no barista, just one cup sitting on a table. Steam rises. You approach and read the note beside it. You spoke the forbidden. You now exist in the version of the town that follows through. You sip the cocoa. It tastes like memories you haven't made yet. Then someone enters. You, but not you. They wear your coat from yesterday, your backpack from last week. Their expression is blank and aware in a way that's deeply unsettling. You nod to them, they nod back, and say, 1. You respond automatically. 2. They smile. 3. And the cafe blinks out of existence. You're standing in the middle of the street. It's not raining. The bell tower begins to ring. Bong, bong, bong. There's a long-standing argument among magical theorists about initiated echoes. That's when a person triggers a cause-effect ripple by unknowingly reenacting a pattern they were meant to avoid. Some say it creates timelines. Others say it creates copies. The uncomfortable majority agree it creates something between the two. You stagger forward. People around you freeze just for a heartbeat. The baker you passed on day 1, his apron is on backwards. He's mouthing numbers that never leave his lips. The twins in the square, not twins anymore. One is walking, one is mirrored mid-step in a shop window. The ground feels like velvet. Your shadow has gone somewhere else entirely. You turn to run and find yourself outside the clock tower. Its doors open on their own. Inside, 2 flights of stairs. A third spirals upward where there was once just ceiling. You climb. At the top is a room with walls covered in chalk equations, circles, eyes, the number 3 scratched out and rewritten and scratched out again. A desk holds a music box. You open it. It plays a lullaby with 3 notes. You hum along, then stop. You can't remember the melody anymore, not because you forgot it, because it hasn't happened yet. It's subtle at first. The way the sky tilts like someone nudged the horizon with their elbow. The way people blink in slightly unsynced rhythm. The way shadows flicker once, then decide not to return to their original shape. You don't notice the clock tower at first because, well, it's always been there. Quiet, lurking, deciding. But now it's humming, low, deep, a sound that's not quite audible but definitely felt. Like the air around it has developed a pulse. Then it happens. Bong. 1 chime. A few townspeople glance up from behind rain-streaked windows. Bong. The second chime rolls through the mist, deeper this time, like it's dug into something, dug into you. Then, for the first time since you arrived, bong. A third chime. You freeze. A dog whines somewhere. A child drops a spinning top that keeps spinning long after it should have stopped. Even the rain hesitates mid-splash, then resumes, but upside down for a full second before correcting itself. You look up. The clock tower's hands are no longer aligned with the real world. One spins clockwise, the other counterclockwise. The second hand is missing entirely. A man stumbles into the street, arms flailing. "It happened," he shouts. "The third toll. I told you it was real." He gets halfway through a spin before collapsing, not like he's fainting, but like he's being rewound. In enchantment-driven chronostructures, a third chime event is classified as a reality rebalance pulse, a forced sync between perception and latent timelines. The chime doesn't just measure time, it edits the town's understanding of what time should have been. You begin to walk, because walking feels safer than standing still. But the road under your feet rearranges itself. Every step feels like a suggestion, not a certainty. You pass a window and see someone staring back, not you. Her eyes are yours, but older, wiser, like she counted to 3 a long time ago and just kept walking. You blink and she mouths something through the glass. You're in the third version now. Then she's gone. Ahead, the square is no longer a square. It's become a spiral, gently rotating. People walk as if this is normal. One of them is dragging a clock behind them like it's a suitcase. You catch sight of the old woman, the one with the red boots, the one who got off the carriage at Maybe. She's standing beneath a dripping lamppost, completely dry. "So," she says, without turning, "you heard it." "The third chime," you whisper. She nods. "They say it was never supposed to ring, but you said it, didn't you? The number. That woke it up. Why is everyone acting like this is fine? Because they haven't heard it yet. It only chimes for you, for now." Lightning cracks across the sky, but it doesn't follow a normal path. It writes something, letters, a phrase you can't quite make out. You stare too long. You feel a version of you step slightly to the left, out of sync, just a toe over, enough to notice. And that's when time skips, just a little, like your life hiccuped. People on the street pause mid-motion, then resume. Only now, a few are wearing different clothes. One building you walked past twice before. It's now a library, but not the one with the cat. This one's called the Archives of Attempted Futures. You check your pocket. Your copper 3 coin is back, warmer than before. It hums. A pulse. 3 beats. You remember something the barista said, half joking. Thirds change you. It's not about what happens. It's about who's still you when it's over. In recent years, the Mage Symposium at Iskra debated whether identity remains consistent across quantum mnemonic transitions. Translation: when you remember something you never lived. Their findings were inconclusive, mostly because half the panel forgot the debate mid-discussion. You hear the bell again, once, twice, then silence. That third chime won't repeat. You make your way back to the fountain. The folded notes have turned blank. All of them, except one. It reads, "Congratulations. You've entered version 3. Please proceed carefully. Your decisions now write themselves backward." You turn it over. There's a list of names. Yours is third. She's waiting for you at the edge of town, where the cobblestones run out and the world starts pretending it's mist again. The old woman, still in her red boots, still dry in the rain, still giving off that faint impression that she knows something that would either destroy you or make you laugh uncontrollably for 17 hours straight. "You made it," she says, without turning. Her voice is wind and memory. You stop beside her. "You said you were from the 4th world." She nods. "I am. I visit the 3rd sometimes. The 2nd is hard to find unless you've recently forgotten something important. And the 1st? She shrugs. "Best left to the birds." She starts walking. You follow her. The road curves where it shouldn't. Trees appear, then vanish. Some of them blink. "You heard the chime," she says. "You counted, you crossed." "Is that what this is?" you ask. "Crossing?" "Oh no," she replies, laughing gently. "Crossing is when you step between lines. You..." She glances at you. "You rewrote your own number." You try to absorb that, but it lands sideways in your brain. In esoteric magical systems, each person is believed to be aligned with a core number. Most common are 1, the self, 2, duality, and rarely 3, transitional multiplicity. A core number shift is considered impossible unless initiated through deliberate narrative fracture, which, congratulations, you just did. You find yourself in front of a garden gate. The garden beyond it is massive, larger than the town itself. Flowers bloom in colour palettes that shouldn't exist, like regret, childhood ringtone, and a memory of someone else's vacation. The path curves into fog. The old woman pushes open the gate. It creaks in F sharp. "Tell me," she says, stepping inside. "What do you think happened when you said 3? You walk beside her, dodging a bush that politely scoots itself out of your way. "I think I shifted into something else." "You did," she confirms. "You cracked the version barrier. You stepped into the awareness that you are not the only you." A butterfly lands on your sleeve. It has your eyes. You brush it off gently. She stops by a stone bench and sits. The mist curls around her like it wants to listen. "In the fourth world," she says, "we're allowed to say 3. We use it daily, but there's a price. Time doesn't flow there. It loops politely. Every decision forks into a trinity. Every mistake echoes threefold." "And here?" "Here," she says, 3 is a key, but no one wants to know what it opens." You look down at your hand. The copper coin pulses slightly. "You've carried that through every version," she says softly, "even when you weren't supposed to. Why me?" She gives a small, bittersweet smile. "You weren't chosen, you were curious. That's worse." Whether magical incidents result from fate, design, or curiosity gone feral is still a heated discussion in circles of deep practitioners. The current leading theory: most reality-bending events are not caused by chosen heroes, but by well-meaning weirdos who poke glowing stuff with sticks. The woman reaches into her coat and pulls out a small notebook. Its cover reads, "Third Witness Log, Edition U." She hands it to you. Inside, fragments. Scattered memories, pages half filled with moments you definitely experienced, but not all in this version. Some are dreams. Some feel like scenes from someone else's life. One page simply says, "You left the cafe, but never paid." Version 2.2 is still annoyed. You laugh. She chuckles. "You'll need that when the gate opens." "Gate?" She points behind you. You turn, and there it is. A towering structure of rain, light, and writing. Letters shifting too quickly to read. A door-shaped storm suspended in the mist. "That's the entrance to the fourth world," she says. "The only known stable one anyway." You take a step toward it. The air hums. "But," she adds, "you don't have to go. You've already broken 3 rules, 3 loops, 3 versions. You can stay here. Return to version 2. We can patch you in." You hesitate, and that's when it clicks. This isn't just a gate. It's a decision. 3 paths. Forward, backward, stay. The Trinity. You smile, and gently say, 1. Then 2. You take a breath, then whisper, 3. The storm doesn't explode. It just lets you in. The first thing you notice after stepping through the storm gate isn't a place. It's a feeling, like stepping into a version of yourself that never got around to being born. The rain evaporates mid-air. Time loses its usual rhythm. There's no breeze, no footsteps, no sound, just the faint impression that everything here is waiting. You're standing in a hallway. It doesn't lead anywhere. Instead, it peels, like a scroll unraveling itself in mid-air. The hallway opens into 3 separate paths, each lined with old wooden doors, some closed, some open, some breathing. You glance back. The gate is gone. Of course it is. In the fourth world model, movement is not directional but narrative-based. You don't walk through space. You walk through versions of yourself. The architecture reshapes itself based on memory, regret, and curiosity. It's why maps are banned here, and compasses are considered rude. At the base of the hall, there's a brass plate on the floor with an inscription. You may choose 3 doors, but not all at once. One for what you know, one for what you forgot, one for what you're not supposed to find. The doors are unmarked. That's helpful. You start with the one on the left. It opens with a sound like a soft gasp. Inside is a room shaped like your childhood bedroom, except it's full of objects that don't belong. A library card from a library you never visited, a backpack with a key you've never owned, a snow globe of a town where it never stops raining. You touch it. Suddenly, you're back in the cafe, sipping cocoa, while 3 versions of you argue about whether you ever really left the inn. One version cries, one laughs, one leaves without saying anything. Then you're back in the room. The snow globe is gone. Some dream architects believe memories in the fourth world are shared pools, accessible across timelines by emotional resonance. That's why people sometimes remember things that never happened, because they did happen, just to a nearby you. You open the second door. The room inside is a study. Ink bottles everywhere, pages pinned to walls, and on every page, the same question written in dozens of scripts. Who was I before I was numbered? You scan the papers and find a photo. You, standing in front of the clock tower. But this time, it has 4 hands. You touch the image and hear the bell. Once, twice, thrice. Then, an unfamiliar 4th chime. You jolt back. There's a mirror on the wall. It shows you, but you're smiling. Like you just learned something you weren't supposed to know but decided to like it anyway. You take a breath and head for the 3rd door. This one doesn't creak. It hums. You step through and find a space made of folded paper and light, floating ink, whispered phrases caught mid-sentence. This isn't a room, it's a recording. A place meant to be forgotten. There, standing across from you, is the old woman, but younger. Her boots are silver now. You're ahead of schedule, she says. You nod, unsure what that even means anymore. She holds out a black envelope. You open it. Inside is a single sentence. You are not a visitor. You are a version. And then everything shifts. You're in the square again, but not the same square. The spiral layout is tighter now. People shimmer faintly. Everyone wears pins, shaped like the number 3, but sideways, like they're trying to trick the rules. You walk to the fountain. It's dry. At the bottom, the copper coin. You reach down, touch it. Suddenly you remember all 3 doors at once. The inn, the mirror, the carriage, the coin, the bell, the echo, your reflection, your 3rd self. Your first thought isn't panic, it's relief, like you've finally arrived at the version of yourself that gets it. The most dangerous kind of magic isn't destruction, it's comprehension. Once you understand how the story works, you become part of its engine. A voice behind you says calmly, "Are you ready for the real name?" You turn, it's you, again, but this time they're holding a key made of rain. The key made of rain shouldn't exist. It doesn't drip, doesn't dissolve, just hangs there in your other self's hand, shimmering like a thought that almost evaporated. You reach out, but your other you pulls it back, gently. You can't take it, they say. You have to earn it. You tilt your head. Haven't I already? They laugh, not cruelly, just knowingly, like someone who read the last page of the book while you were still admiring the chapter titles. You think this town doesn't know what you're doing, they ask. It built itself around people like you. They walk in a slow circle around you, rain pooling where their feet should be. Curious, restless, pattern hungry. always looking for the third option even when you know two should have been enough. You want to protest, but you don't, because deep down they're not wrong. The fountain behind you gurgles to life, not with water, with ink. Thick, dark ink that spills into the bowl and begins swirling clockwise, then counterclockwise, then both. Every version of this town has a name, your other self says, but none of them are complete. You watch the ink, words rise from it, slowly. The town of Muri, no Yolnung Bur town, Than Tull place. They all stop short, none cross the finish line. You get it now? They whisper. The town doesn't hate the number 3, it's made of it, but it can't say it, not out loud, not fully. You stare at them. So what happens if I do? They shrug. Some say it fixes the loop, others say it ends the story. You stare down into the fountain. The words keep reforming. Not your name, the town's. Naming is power. In most enchanted geographies, the place's true name is its anchor, its stabilizing force. Without it, the town becomes self-editing, self-erasing, increasingly dreamlike. That's why forbidden towns always have names you forget the moment you hear them. It's a form of protective amnesia. Okay, you say. So how do I name it? Your other self hands you the coin again, 3, glinting like a promise. You already did, they reply. Suddenly, you remember it all. The third step in the library, the third chime, the third shadow, the third door, the third ride. You didn't just pass through the versions, you became them. And now, in the town centre, the spiral square unravels around you. Buildings stretch, sky peels, people flicker between possibilities. A voice rings out, soft but clear. Say it. You know what they mean. You close your eyes, you whisper, 3. The sky sighs, not thunder, not wind, just relief. Somewhere, the bell tolls once, then twice, then bong, a final third. Then silence. Everything holds still. No more flickering. No more misnumbered streets. The town exhales, like a held breath finally let go. Your other self smiles, stepping back into the mist. The key of rain drops into your hand and vanishes. You feel it settle behind your ribs, somewhere between memory and meaning. In towns designed by unstable language matrices, completing the town's name rewrites its need to hide. It's not about solving a puzzle, it's about allowing the place to be whole. Naming it isn't an act of discovery, it's an act of permission. You turn one last time. The fountain has cleared. On its basin, carved in perfect symmetry, welcome to Third Light. You smile. It finally said it. So did you. You don't leave the town, not because you can't, because now you don't need to. Third Light hums differently now. The rain still falls, but softer, gentler, like it's just here to keep you company. The fog no longer hides things. It wraps the edges of the world in silk, letting them rest. People are outside again, real people, or maybe new versions of the old ones, stitched back together now that the name has settled. The baker waves at you with sugar-dusted fingers. The cafe has 3 chairs per table. The swings at the playground, they go around 3 times, and no one vanishes. Even the clocktower has changed. It chimes 3 times now, every hour, and each chime sounds more like music and less like warning. You walk down Spiral Square. Yes, they've started calling it that officially. The post office now delivers to addresses like 213 Probability Lane, the third window in, number 3 and a feeling, Elsewhere Avenue. You stop at the cafe. The barista greets you with a grin and 3 fresh tarts. 1 for each version of you, she says. The one who wandered in, the one who counted, and the one who stayed. You eat them all. They taste like closure, like rain-kissed citrus and slightly burnt possibility. When you name the storm, it dances. When you name the town, it remembers. When you name yourself, the story listens. You check your pocket. The coin is gone. In its place, a note in your own handwriting. You are the third version now. Take care of the others. Don't let them forget what they found. Outside the cafe, you see a child skipping down the path. 1, 2, she giggles. 3, and nothing breaks. Instead, a flock of paper birds rises from a puddle and spirals into the sky, like the world is finally learning how to fly again. You walk slowly to the library. The stairs don't vanish anymore. The third step feels solid, confident, like it's been waiting for you to trust it. Inside, the cat's still there, purring loudly. It hops into your lap as you flip open a journal labelled Field Notes on version 3. You start to write, not everything, just what matters. How the sky looked when the town remembered its name. How your reflection finally smiled with you, not before you. How 3 doesn't mean danger anymore. It means complete. The most powerful spell in any world is permission. When you allow things to exist in their full form, messy, mysterious, numbered, they stop resisting. They become part of the rhythm, and rhythm, as every old spellcaster knows, always works best in 3s. You close the journal and tuck it back onto the shelf, right between clockwork theology and dreams we don't borrow anymore. The library hums in agreement. As you step back into the street, the chime rings again. 1, 2, 3. Not a warning, not a glitch, just a heartbeat. This time you walk without counting, because you already know where you are. You are in third light, and the version of you that doubted, they're resting now. And the one who stayed curious, they're still walking. And the one who feared what 3 might mean, they finally know 3 isn't the end. It's just when the story begins to tell itself. And now, the rain softens into mist. The streets grow quieter, like the whole town is curling up beneath a dream-worn blanket. The cafe closes its shutters with a gentle sigh. The clocktower hums its last chime of the night. 1, 2, 3, and then rests. You walk slowly now. No rush, no loops chasing you, no shadows outpacing their owners, just you, and the gentle rhythm of a world that finally fits. The puddles on the ground no longer hide anything, they just reflect. Trees sway without whispering secrets. The lampposts flicker politely, then hold steady, offering light, not riddles. You sit on a bench that wasn't there yesterday but clearly belongs here. Somewhere in the distance a song plays. Faint, familiar, like something your third self always meant to hum but never quite remembered the tune. You lean back. Breathe. Let the weight of all your versions settle into one shape. Rain tap-taps on the rooftops. And slowly, sleep comes. Not in a rush, but in waves. Like the town is singing you into stillness. No more tests. No more reflections. Just the quiet magic of being. You're safe. You're home. You're whole.